Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us here today. My name is Sylvia Barragan, and I'm the faculty advisor for this great student-led project. I'd like to let you know a little bit more about it, and that's to share that this is a San Diego State University student success fee, student-led project that is intended to allow our students to experience transformational learning. And I believe that we've been able to accomplish that every time we've been successful in being granted a student success fee grant. That said, the fact that it's a student-led project, I want to introduce Naya Coach Lamb, who's taken the lead in this particular project. Naya Coach is a second-year MSW student graduating tomorrow. Naya Coach, welcome, and the floor is yours.
It's been a couple years, you would think I would remember to unmute. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. It's been a pleasure on our journey on Together We Can Change the World. Last year, we were able to do a similar virtual experience where we focused on difficult conversations within refugee communities and psychoeducation on stigma and mental health. This year, particularly, we wanted to focus on healing and restorative healing within refugee communities, specifically within the South Sudanese community. So what we're going to experience today is a series of keynote speakers that are very well versed in healing. And I'm so excited for you guys to hear from them. And we have questions for them and to just gain insight on what it's like and how we as a community can heal for those who belong to refugee communities and for those who resonate with these topics that we're talking about. We hope that you can glean from it. We hope you can take from it. We hope you can incorporate this within your communities as well. So enjoy, and we look forward to having this event today.
Thank you so much, Naya Coach. I'd like to start off by asking our wonderful keynote speakers to present themselves. If we could start with Mr. Jerry Theo, and then Ms. Carla Brody, and Mr. Emmanuel Hall. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. Good blessings and good afternoon to everyone, wherever you're at. My name is Jerry Theo. I come from a family. My dad is Jorge Perez Theo. He's a native Tapilan Cuauhtecan immigrant. Here, my mom is from Mexico, and they came from families of 14 and 15. So we used to a lot of kids, a lot of noise, a lot of challenges in our home. But they came and then, really couldn't go back to their home countries. But we raised us, ended up in Los Angeles, but we ended up in Compton. And I'm a grandfather. I have a grandfather of six, actually six. We have a new one, and a father of five. And my life work has been really about trying to find the healing so that I can help, first of all, heal myself, because in growing up, gone through some things, and then help heal my family. Had a family that, I had some difficult times too. And, my father died when I was 13. So that was another challenge. And then, so I grew up without a father later on, but a very strong mother, taught me a lot of things. And then went on to become a psychologist. And I thought, that was my profession, but really it was part of a way to figure out how to heal my family and heal the people that are closest to me. So thank you very much. And just want to say, blessings to everybody.
An honor to have you with us today. Thank you so much. Carla? You want to go next, Kayla, or Carla?
I can go. Sorry about that. I was trying to unmute.
Okay.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you all so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with an amazing panel of folks and just to be part of this project. My name is Carla Brody. I'm a circle facilitator and a restorative practitioner. I also facilitate trainings with the National Conflict Resolution Center around conflict resolution and inclusive communication. And I would say that primarily I came to this work because I think it was something that I was seeking, really a space to explore conflict within myself, within my family. I grew up in a family that didn't, that really kept a lot of secrets, and there wasn't a lot of space to talk about family trauma, to talk about some of the harm that we had caused each other. So I think that I sort of indirectly was looking for a space where I could show up more authentically, and mostly found it in the community circle space, really the space of storytelling and hearing each other in a more authentic way. And so I primarily facilitate circles in the community building circles for organizations, for community members, for really anyone who is interested in doing healing. I'm also going to be moving to doing more restorative work in schools. And again, really feel drawn to this work because I think it's a great way to at least talk about some of the harms that haven't been talked about before, that we haven't explored, and a good way to really bridge some of the barriers that we have amongst each other, and really move towards more respect and caring. So thank you all again.
No, thank you so much for being part of our esteemed panel today. Appreciate it. Appreciate your work in our community as well. Mr. Emmanuel Jal?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Well, I'm really excited to be part of this event. So my name is Emmanuel Jal, for those who don't know. So I'm a recording artist at the moment and an entrepreneur. But my background is I come from South Sudan, and I was born when my country was at war. So that war reached the core of my family. So it took all my aunties and all my uncles, except two. Then by the age of 7, my father told me I'm going to go to school in Ethiopia, where I ended up becoming a child soldier. So basically, my life experience, my childhood has been rough. And so many South Sudanese, right now, there are a lot of them in the United States, what they call lost boys, or they're lost girls. And now I'm in this world where I share my experiences in the past and how I've overcome my traumatic experiences, and to be able to do this life that I'm doing. And so I'm looking forward to hearing from the other panelists and for the questions that are going to be sent at us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Having listened to all of your presentations already, I have a few questions of my own, so I'm going to wait until the end and let others take care of that. But thank you again for being here. I want to flow into Naya Coach Lamb, her father, Mr. Lamb, who is also accompanying us today. He was featured in one of the videos, and Kayla Mulholland, who is the owner of documentaries for social justice, and who's an integral part of this project, without whom, we really couldn't function. So I'll let you guys decide who's in what order you're going to go. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction, Sylvia. Yeah, like she said, I'm Kayla Mulholland. I'm doing this is Itzam. He's joining me. Most of you already know him. But I worked with Naya Coach on the project, making the films together, and I think it's really neat that we have her dad here. So could you please introduce yourself, Mr. Lam?
Hi. Hi to everybody. My name is Lam Wang, and I'm Naya Coach's father. I'm one of the South Sudanese person. I came from Africa, in East Africa, from South Sudan. As Emmanuel Jal mentioned, we've been in a war for so long, and a lot of us, we have a similar history based on what we have So I'm so excited to be a part of this panel, and I would like to listen to the panelists, and then maybe I may have some questions on that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb, and thank you for sharing your daughter with us.
You're welcome.
Do we have some questions that we can, we'd like to start with any questions directed at Mr. Teo, given that he's has another engagement, and if we could just give him the floor first, that would be great.
So I'm gonna speak on behalf of Abdi Salan, who wasn't able to make it because of a last minute thing that he had to do, but he sent me some questions after seeing Jerry's speech that he was very moved by. So I'm gonna read one of his questions for Jerry. What Abdi Salan would like to know is, when you're fleeing from a country and becoming an immigrant in certain unwelcoming communities, what kind of mental health problems do you think that can have? And as a result of the new culture, and how do you think that impacts children?
Yeah, you know, that's a really important question, because we live in a world, in a society that often is not welcoming and does not embrace certain people. And I think it can make you wonder. It make you wonder if you're valued. It can make you wonder if you have purpose. It can make you wonder if the knowledge that you have, because all of us carry knowledge. Even children carry knowledge. We carry knowledge from our families, from our culture, from our land, from our ancestors. But when you come to a place that doesn't welcome you, or that says, in order for you to feel whole, or to feel well, or to feel healthy, you have to act like they act. And when you act like they act, that doesn't feel right, because that's not who you are. It can confuse you. And I remember many times, just walking in a room, or walking in a place, or walking with my dad or my mom, and I could tell there was a feeling in the room like, we were not welcome. And it for me, it tightened my stomach up, right? But then I would worry, and I would worry to go places, and even when I wanted to do something good, well, should I go there or not? And so it affected my sleep. It can affect you in a lot of different ways, from your sleep, from your, and what stress does, what trauma does, is sometimes it freezes you, where you know something, but you didn't want to say it. You want to do something, but you're not even sure you want to do that. You have ideas, but you don't want to share them. And then that makes you feel worse about yourself. And the worst end of that is it can make you feel shame. It can make you feel shame for who you are. And in my culture, there's a term, a native term called Cloque Nawake, which means interconnected sacredness. And it means that even though you may not be in your home place, or even in your own home, that in the midst of the great spirit, or God, or creator, that this world belongs to all of us. We're all connected. This pandemic showed us that we're all connected. We're all relatives, and I think I shared on that video, I grew up in a very mixed neighborhood, and immigrant people from different places. But when my grandma came out to, it was lunchtime, she said, "¿Quién quiere comer? Who wants to eat?" And everybody raised their hand, whether they understood the language or not. They wanted to eat, and my grandma welcomed them in. See, that's the way it's supposed to be. But we live in a society that is not welcoming and judges people, and that can make you sick. So what's really important is, first of all, you to know, each one of you, to know that you're sacred just the way you are, that you're a blessing. And even though many people don't know how to treat you that way, that you need to know the essence of wholeness in this world is that you are sacred. And there's something, everyone, none of us were created to do harm or to do nothing. All of us were created to contribute. You have something to contribute. My younger brother here, who's a musician, he says he's an artist. music saved me. Music saved me, because after my dad died, and I was depressed, because I was sad, and I was supposed to be sad. When you lose somebody, when you're missing somebody, you're supposed to. Doesn't mean that you're crazy. You got mental health. You're supposed to be sad. That's a natural. If I wasn't sad, then something would be wrong with me. But I was sad, and I would go into my garage, and my dad they had a piano in there that nobody knew how to play, right? When my dad got it in trade for something, and I would go in there and begin to play, try to figure out notes and trying to sing songs, and with that vibration, the vibration of those songs that my father used to sing, and the vibrations of those songs that I heard in my culture, it helped me. It helped heal me. The vibration, I remembered who I was. I remembered my culture. I remembered my dad. I remembered my country. I remember everything with those songs. And that's why it's so important, our culture and our songs and our traditions that way. So, I think remember those things, because, and then look for people that can help you. Look for people that can acknowledge you, remind you your sacredness, and surround yourself with people. And if it's just one person, that when you're feeling sad, will sit down with you and not criticize you for how you feel, or if you're anxious or whatever, will help you calm down a little bit. But just know that there's always a way, that our ancestors, and from every culture, we have medicine, and we have traditions and songs and ways and people that can help us feel better and be better. So I'll just offer that much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Teo. We have another question that came in as you were responding from Clorinda Merino, who says, a question for Jerry Teo. First of all, always have admired your way of communicating and teaching, so thank you for your contribution. My question is, how did you work out those feelings between what you were being parented to what the Western world was telling you? How do you help our Latino kids navigate or negotiate those feelings?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is to acknowledge it, and to have some place to talk about it with, because I didn't have no place. I had no place. I was learning one way in school, and then I'd go home. They told me in school that I have rights, and I could share my feelings and express myself. And I'd go home, and my dad would throw out the trash, and I'd say, "Wait a minute, Dad, I got rights. I want to express myself." My dad said, "I'll show you a right here," And so there's a conflict between cultures, and that's not the culture's fault. That's because the school really, did not really embrace who we were and put that in. So it is confusing. And the thing is, for our children, we have to begin to talk to them about that. Tell them stories about what you go through. Tell them stories about how you handled it in a good way. And even sometimes when you didn't handle it in a good way, how you wish we would have handled it. But, with some of my kids, they struggled. And my daughter one day, they got to take dollies to school, right? And my daughter picked a dolly that was dark skinned like her. And she took the doll to school, and her girlfriends made fun of her because she picked a doll that looked like her. And they made fun of her, and she came home and she was crying. And I had to share with her, that, I went through that too. But you know why you have that beautiful dark skin? It's because, God loved you so much, and that he got the sunshine to shine a little more light on you, make you a little more pretty, a little more darker like that. And you could see her smile. And then I said, and sometimes people are going to share things with you that are going to hurt you. Don't take it in. You got to know that you come from beautiful people. You're beautiful. And then we went for a walk and looked at all the different animals and say, look, they all look at different. They all got little coats that are different. They all look different. They're all beautiful. They're all necessary, But the dialogue, the discussion, for me as a dad, I first had to get through my own stuff. I first had to do my own healing. I first had to dialogue with other people that had gone through it. So when I got to my kids, I could explain it, because, what I wanted to do sometimes is I wanted to be angry and go get that teacher or whoever myself and, be mean with them. But I know that wasn't the right way. But in dialoguing with other people, I learned how to do it in a better way. And that's kind of the work that I do. Share with people, maybe a better way of thinking how to do it. And sometimes we have to teach those teachers. We have to teach those systems. We have to teach those other people, how to do it. And remember that we deserve to be treated with respect, regardless of, where you come from, whether you have your documented papers or not. You're still as sacred and as blessed as anybody else, that way. So I'll offer that.
Thank you, Jerry. We have a couple of, we have another question that's very similar to the one you just answered from Claudia Gonzalez. Claudia, I'm going to go to Enoch Esteban Jimenez, and it's in Spanish, but I'll translate. And he says, hello, good afternoon. Jerry, I liked your presentation very much. Thank you for your work. I would like to ask you, what would you recommend a son so that to help him deal with his resentment that he has towards his mother or his father for lack of not having received enough love. Thank you, Jerry, and congratulations on your work.
Thank you. Let me just say in Spanish to this individual, muchas gracias por su pregunta y eso es una pregunta que es muy profundo. I just tell them, it's a very profound question. And, and it happened in my own life with my mother. My mother was a great mother. She provided, she did everything. She took care of us, she fed us. She was a very strong woman, but she had difficulty expressing love. And for many, many years, I resented that, and when I went to school, they said, your parents are supposed to love you and do all of that. And I was thought, why doesn't my mom love me? In fact, I would come home from college and my mom would be in the kitchen and I'd grab her and I said, hey, Mom, I love you. She said, yeah, you want a taco? She wouldn't say it back. She wouldn't give it. I said, but Mom, I love you. Yeah, you want something else to eat? And, I said, wow, that's kind of messed up. She can't say it to me, And not until my mom died, I carried kind of that resentment a little bit until, and I was talking to my aunt about it. And I said, I miss my mom. She was a good mom, but I just wish she would have been more loving with me. And my aunt looked at me and says, do you know your mom's story? Do you know what your mom went through? Do you know as an immigrant what she went through and what happened to her when she crossed that border? Do you know what they did to her, what those Border Patrol agents did? Do you know what happened when she went to clean the houses of the rich folks and that she was violated? And my aunt went on to tell me all of these things that my mom had gone through that I never knew. I never knew. And see, what I didn't realize, and I think what kids don't realize, what I didn't realize is that my mother was a woman before she was my mom. I thought she was just a mom. And mom was supposed to love you and take care of you. And I didn't realize that my mom was a person. She was a woman. She had her own issues. She had her own problems. She had her own trauma. And when do moms heal? Because when I woke up, my mom was awake. When I went to sleep, she was still awake. Where do moms go to heal? Where do daddies go to heal? When we grew up, there was no place. And so hurt people hurt people. If you have parents that are not loving or hurtful, it's not because they don't love you, it's because they're hurting. And I'm not saying it makes it okay. It doesn't make it okay either. But it's not because they don't love you. It's not because they don't care for you. It's because they have wounds and it spills out on you. And part of our work, part of my work had to do with forgiveness, letting it go. Recognizing I don't understand and I'm not sure, but thank you for everything you did do for me. And in some, families, it's giving me a roof over my head. Maybe you're not expressing love or being, and maybe you're being mean and calling me names and all that, but at least you give me a roof, at least you give me that. But the other thing is the way I learned to be a father is by doing things that I needed that my father never did. What I learned from my mom, there's things that she did that I will never do with my kids. That I learned those lessons, but I don't hold resentment towards her anymore. I see them as teachings. We have to transform the wounds into teachings, transform the wounds into medicine, transform those things that we have, and because my mom's gone, I can hold them, but there's no longer my mom. I'm doing it to myself now. So I have to give myself permission to let things go. And sometimes you need help to do that. There's people in communities that can help you do that that way. So.
Okay. And perhaps this might be the last one for you if you're willing to take one more, Mr. Teo. Okay, great. For Mr. Teo, as a mental health provider, how do you find balance using the teachings we receive in school versus our cultural, personal experiences to heal our communities?
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate the education, but, I think I rely on my cultural teachings and my cultural ways. I, definitely are really connected to a creator and to prayer and to the ceremonies that we have. And we have certain sayings and stories, and I do a lot of telling of stories, but also, we were taught in our culture that herbs are real. I thought my grandma was crazy when we were little because she would go outside and talk to the plants. And que bonito, Rosa, to talk to the grandma. You're talking to the roses and the flowers and everything and the herbs. And then she would say, I'm going to water you and to one herb. And so I can take a little piece and make a tea out of it. And my grandma would get those herbs and make a tea and heal our stomachs and heal us. And my mama, you know, even though she wasn't very affectionate, would make sure she fed us the right things. And, you know, and we always had somebody in our family, extended family, that was a healer that would rub us, you know, that would rub us and give us these things. And then the singing of songs, right? The ru, ala ito, ala ru. So those rhythms and those songs and that come, you know, and you see young people searching for those rhythms and songs. We need to use our culture. I'm not saying the Western society is bad, because there's some things, you know, one of our sisters here is talking about circles. We've always met in circles. You know, you see the women in circles, you see the guys in the corner, the homies in circle. Circles are not a new thing. Restorative justice is not a new thing. It's something that we need to come back to and embrace. You know, but that's the way. The other thing is I have to do my work to let go of all those things that, you know, kind of I've picked up too, living in this society, that are not good. You pick up values of individuality and you know, wanting to work harder and work more and not enough time for your kids. There's all these things, you know, that we pick up in this society. And I've had to readjust so I can spend time. So I can spend time with my kids, with my grandkids, with my wife, spend time with myself. Sometimes I just need quiet time. You know, and it's hard when you're working all the time. But even if it's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you know, of that sacred time, that's important. That's the way I heal myself. I surround myself with people, with elders too, with other people that can help me, that affirm me, that remind me of my happiness. And I laugh a lot. I like to laugh and have fun and sing and dance. And, you know, sometimes just dancing and just letting things go, letting it go that way. Sometimes, you know, having a good party without all the alcohol and the drugs. No. Everyone don't need that. That's not good for you. But you can have a good time with all of that and have fun. And you need to spend some time having fun and enjoying yourself too. So.
Thank you. I think you have a groupie here. Clorinda Medina said, hurt people, great teaching. And she says she's a follower.
So let me say the opposite of that. Heal people, heal people.
Nice.
When you heal, you can heal others, right? And I see, you know, all those the others on the panel, you know, I want to thank you. Thank you for allowing me a little bit of time. You know, I have, you know, every Friday, I have grandpa duty. I have tata duty. So my son's got to go to work, and so I got to go with my grandson. That's my work that I got to do. That's why I had to, you know, do it in the beginning. So thank you for that. I appreciate all of you. You know.
Well,
Jerry, thank you so much. Before you go, can Mr. Lamb actually has a question for you after having.
I can stay around for a little bit longer. So okay. When I hear from the other panel,
I'm gonna pass him the mic.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Jerry, for your answering all these questions. I so appreciate that. I have a question that related to your presentation. I know when you come from a different country, there's a lot of challenges that you have faced based on how do you cooperate the culture, two culture, where you come from and the culture that you just get involved into. So to me, I should ask you, how would you become a better or a good father? So is there any way that you can tell us, as a father, I'm a first immigrant who come here with my children, so I try my best to be a better father, but I could not getting enough. So can you tell me how to become a better father that I can help my children or I can help my community for being a better person or better father?
I think the first thing you can do is teach your kids how to love themselves, that they are so special to you. And you can do it in your language, in your way. That's the root of a tree. The root of the tree is that you are special, you are a blessing, you're important to me. every day as much as you can, in your own way, in your own language, in your own culture. Teach them their culture, teach them who they are. That's the root of the tree. If you root that, if you make them understand that they, that they and their culture and their traditions are sacred, are important, that's the root of the tree. So that's the first part. And that's ongoing, because sometimes, they come home and they're acting different, right? The second part, and that's where we learn, but sometimes our kids teach us too, is we have to learn how to navigate this world. How do we navigate this world, right? And that's where we learn together. But if your kids trust you, meaning if they can come to you and tell you anything, if they can come and say, Daddy, I don't know what to do. This kid was bullying me. This kid was doing this, or this kid was making fun of me, and the way that you open that door for them is for you to say, son, they did that to me too. When I grew up like that, or I went to the market, they did that too. So no, it's not just you, it's me. So when something like that happens, you come, let's talk about it. We'll figure it out, And so you give them a space to be able to share, to be able to dialogue. You may not have the answer, but we don't always have the answer. But what we want to do is create a space for them to dialogue. And then I think as a father, we need to advocate for our children, and even in school. The schools need to be open and should treat our kids with respect, should treat us with respect. A lot of times in schools, I see that, parents don't have a place in the school. They hang out in the parking lot or someplace else. And we need to, say, hey, we need a place inside there too. Are you teaching our stories? Are you teaching our history? Are you teaching our culture? And that's what we need to advocate, But the other thing is then the last thing is your children will watch you how you treat other people that are different than you too. And when they see you treating other people, then they'll learn how to not be like those people that treat you less than, or people that criticize you, or people that are racist. They'll learn, how to be a good person that way, and it's still something I'm working on. It's a lifelong journey. Something happened to one of my grandkids, not too long ago. And of course I got very upset, but, I had to talk with one of my friends, so I wouldn't share that upset with my kids so much, so that I can talk to them in a good way. And so I have to continue doing my work, and so I have my circle of men that we get together and share our stories, so that I can continue healing and growing. Hopefully that was a little helpful there.
Well, thank you. And I think that response, resonated for those who may have watched the Restorative Circle facilitated by Carla, where the young lady asked, is insecure about not knowing the Noor language so well, right? And that's that root that you're talking about, Jerry. That's the foundation for how strong are you, how solid. So, we're going to give you Tata time.
Yeah,
thank you for joining us, and hopefully our paths will cross once again. You take great care.
Blessings to all of you. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. I hope I hear some of your creativity someday. I wanna be in and see that sacred music and whatever you create. I hope to hear that someday. Thank you, Mr. Len. Thank you.
Thank you,
everybody.
All right, you take care. So what I'll do is I'll open the questions to everyone at this point, and I have a question that, whoever wants to jump in, is from Emily Filiano, who says, I work at an ethnic community-based organization that works with new Americans. The majority of staff are from the communities we serve. Recently, we are having difficulty engaging youth to take initiative toward transforming their futures. Do you have any suggestions on how we might be able to more effectively engage these youth? It's open for anyone to respond if you feel.
I can jump in and begin to answer that question. I think, first of all, thank you so much for that question. I think that it's a really hard time for young people these days. I mean, given everything that we've all experienced in the last couple of years, but particularly youth have experienced with isolation and lack of connections and really thinking about all of the influences of social media and where we are really in our time of racial reckoning. So I think first of all, really starting with where youth are. Sometimes I think they really just need a space to process what they're going through. Really thinking about the role of circles in engaging youth. Sometimes I think it's nice to just have folks get together and know that they're not alone. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done right now in terms of really grieving all that we've lost, the loss of people, the loss of connections, the missing out on things. So starting with just providing a space for that. And then really, really having spaces again for youth to take action and maybe with their own healing, beginning to think about how they can support one another, and particularly in the community of new Americans. I think starting with some of the healing, some of the intergenerational healing, some of the storytelling really in their own communities, and thinking about really the roots, some of the roots that Brother Teo talked about. Really, what is their identity that they really are cling to and that roots them. So really starting with that as a starting place, and from there really moving into what youth are drawn to and what their interests are right now. But I think that it's a really hard time to engage youth. So really creating opportunities for them to feel connected and to each other, and feeling more of a sense of self and love of self right now. I would love to have others maybe add to this question.
Yeah. Anyone?
I would add, dealing with youth can be a bit difficult sometimes. So it's kind of mimicking what Carla just said, is meeting them where they are. So what are some things that they're interested in, and asking from them directly how can what it is that what they're interested in, what they want. And so I think providing them, similar to what Carla just said, providing for them a space where they can feel comfortable and allow them to learn also how to adapt to American customs and cultures, so that they don't feel, I'm sure it's a bit difficult for them to sort of find their footing or find their place within the United States. And so kind of, making it fun for them, for those who are the staff there, maybe teaching them, some of the lingo that the youth use, and just sort of allowing them a smooth transition, and having people that they can look up to and support during that time. So I think for what my advice is really just being there for them. I really think that in this moment, not having them do activities that they're not really engaged or interested in. So kind of reviewing what it is that is being applied to them and seeing if it's working. So maybe giving them an opportunity to share what they might like or what may be of interest to them, and exposing them to various things as well, so that they have a range of opportunities there to look at that. So that's what I would add there. Great question, Emily.
Yeah, thank you, Naya Coach. It reminds me of the talk that Emmanuel Jal gave. That first it's the trauma, right? If you're a new American, you invariably, if it didn't arrive here by choice, something pushed you here, and there's things that you have to deal with prior to figuring out next steps. I love what Emmanuel shared in his presentation. The imagination, the belief, the vision, the purpose, and we all have in our heart a desire to help, but we have to back up just a little bit, as you were saying, Carla, because these times call for that, particularly when you look at the statistics for youth and adolescents in terms of their mental health and issues and suicidality risks, where they are now. Connections, probably the biggest key would be what I would say. How about you, Emmanuel? Anything you want to contribute there?
It's a great question. For me, maybe I would probably ask more questions. What activities do they have in the community that they're providing the youth? Because young people have their own things that they like. And so most of what I would have said has already been said by your coach. And the thing is, each and every child has something they really, really, really want to do, something they're interested in. They have their own ideas to which they feel could solve their problems in the future. And identifying what they're really, really interested in, and then making those things, that place, a place where their dreams can start, you know? So somewhere, I think young people like to play a lot. They like things that give them fun. And finding, if you can find somebody who knows how to engage with young people well, just to make them feel at home, as your coach said, that would be really, really amazing. But for me, whoever asked the question, I would have asked more questions to dig more into knowing what the community, what's the vision, what's the purpose, what's the mission in that area, what is it that they're actually doing, what do they have already, you know? Or maybe they don't have certain things that could attract those youth.
Nice. Ask more questions. I think, you mentioned you're interested in music, creativity, imagination. Jerry talked about playing the piano, right? Those are all things that we know that for trauma are important. They kind of help you self-center, and being able to talk to, the youth about any ideas that they have of things that they want. I love that you said play. We underestimate the value of play at all ages. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. Naya Coach has a question. Oh, well, we have a comment from Sylvia Telefaro, who says, "This is so great. My heart is full." That's wonderful. Naya Coach asks, what advice can you give children of immigrants, refugees, to help their relationship with their parents? So now this is looking at the children, especially with the barrier of the cultures.
That's actually someone who's on the live chat.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Is that question directed to me? What advice can you give children of immigrants, refugees, to help their relationship with their parents, especially with the barrier of the cultures? What I could say is, one of the coolest things that would be amazing is be active at home, whatever it is that help your parents, help with housework. Why I would say help, in fact, me, I'm one of those people. Make your bed. If you don't make your bed, make your bed. If you cook something, or you ate the plate, clean it, clean the table, do those basic stuff. I know, I want to tell you why. At one time, I wanted to increase my memory. And I did like a 6-month study of how to improve a memory. And I'm a kind of a person who when I come to the house, I could leave my shoes at the door, leave my socks. You can track. If you are somebody sent to come and kill me, you'll track me by the drop of pieces that I leave everywhere until I go to my bedroom. You'll know this is where I can track Manuel where he is. And so when I studied that, I realized, okay, if you want to increase your memory, one of the best way to do it is every day wake up and spread your bed, make your bed, and try to be creative on how you make your bed. And then the other one which was amazing, was cleaning the dishes. And I never like to clean my dishes, and I live alone, so I would leave them piled up, And so, and now this is what I want, but I know, like, if I want my memory to improve, then I have to clean the dishes. one of the reasons it says there's a combination of how the hand moves and how you clean and the way you are touching it kind of it create mental space. And so it led me to creating a new habit to which now, if I'm in my house, I do that. So, and I would say, if you do that, if you want to pass well in school, you need to create more mental space by engaging, doing these simple stuff that are boring. How would you help your parent? Give them respect. Don't get lost in how it is. Listen to them and what they're saying, and also express to them whatever you really, really, really want to do in a respectable way. Communicate it to them. And because most parents want the best for their children. Their own fears, they can project their own fears to you. And don't look at that as them being annoying. It's just because they have so much love for you and they have so many experiences that probably hurt them and they don't want you to get hurt. So one of the best way you can help your parents is do your homework, just do well. And if you're finding it difficult to study in school, tell them, I'm struggling here. But when you perform, you take in and give yourself initiative, give yourself certain goals that you want to achieve, and ask them questions to help you. Engage on how they can support you. Parents love that.
That's a great question. I would add that this question, a lot of answers you can get from our restorative healing circle, where we had some of the parents talk and some of the youth share their experiences on what it's like being in America. But I think the most important thing is understanding that there are two different cultures, and understanding that your parents may not know what's going on. They may not care to go to a basketball game, but that doesn't mean that they don't love you. They may not, understand social cues or social customs, or why you have to have, the nicest shoes and the freshest clothes. Those are things they may not have a grasp of understanding, because back home where they come from, those things were not a factor. They were not something that they had to care for. So just when you know that there's two completely different cultures, you can be able to relate to them a little bit more. You can be able to not grow so upset frequently with certain things because of that lack of understanding. So I would really advise youth or children to understand that this is just how it is. No one asked to have a civil war and to be displaced from their country, but that our parents are doing the best that they could with what they have. And that may look different to what goes on in America and how culture is, but having peace, knowing that you have that level of understanding, and then meeting each other where you're at. So if I think Jerry Teo said this, he hugged his mom and said, "I love you," and she didn't say it back. Not being upset that you're not getting it back, but understanding that, okay, well, she's not going to say it back to me, but she's going to give me food. She's going to take care of me if I'm sick. So understanding that, almost like, I think a lot of culture nowadays, everyone asks, what's your love language? How do you receive love and things like that? So it's similar to that. What is the language that is being communicated at home, and making sure that that is being translated on a level playing field. So that is the advice I would give. And it's not easy. Some parents could be a little difficult and not want any interaction at all. And some children may just not even want to fathom having to deal with understanding any of that. They want what they want and they're not getting it, and they're going to blame their parents or blame whoever they can. But I think when people are able to humble themselves a little bit, take a step back and really understand and grasp what it takes to be a refugee, what it takes to be an immigrant, you can have a little bit more grace for your parents and have a little bit more understanding, so that there's not a lot of conflict, because you may not feel heard, or you may not feel seen. So yeah.
Completely agree. Thank you, Naya Coach, for adding that. I'm interested to hear from your dad about what he thinks about how this process has gone. He was one of the leaders of our circle, of our group as well, and he has really interesting insight throughout the group. And I'm interested, Mr. Lamb, what was the process like for you having a circle with the children involved? Because I know that usually it's just the male father figures, right, in the circles. And so in the circles that we did, the kids were also expressing how they felt. What was that like for you? Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Carla, for clarification. So regarding on the relationship between father and the children, is something that it need work for both of them. First, as a father, you have a role. Father and mother, they have a role on that, and then also the kid also they have a role. So most importantly, when it comes to how you're going to handle the situation based on the culture where you are in and the culture where you come from is totally different. It's very, very far different. For instance, like the way I came from and what I have learned when I came here is totally different. So the way we express love is really totally different. So back home, it doesn't mean that even though they send you after cows, after whatever, so it doesn't mean that they don't love you. They treat you in a different, terrible way of showing love to your kid. So in order for you to be a strong man or a strong girl in the future, you have to go through hardship in order to be a better person. That's how they express their love in a different way there. And also, education is not enough where we came from, like the South Sudan. So especially girls, they don't get a chance to go to school. So most of the time, Brother Emmanuel Jal talk about that a lot. And also in that, we have a little fight with our kid. So back home, people are being beaten. People are being treated in a way that you show your love to your father to be a better person when you grown up. But here, when we came here, different world, different technology, a lot of things going on. So we don't show the way that we were taught before. So on this case, in order for us to embrace all these relationships with our children, we need to dialogue with each other. For example, me, when my kid come back from school, I have to ask them, what do you learn? And then what do you learn? And what do you think? And how is school going? And what teacher told you, your homework, and all this. I want to be close to them in order for me to make sure that whatever I should catch up before it goes to be a big issues, I have to catch up in an early time. So I have to engage myself with them, try to change a little bit, but not in quite full. That I try to make sure that when they come back from school, I have to be sure that they did the homework. I have to be sure that they get a good grade, and then I prepare something that they can improve themselves. So when you get a better grade, you have to have a certificate at home where you can get a reward on whatever you do. So our kid here, we have a center that we have in South Sudanese, where all of them, we can teach them in our language, our culture dance, and also take them to the church, make sure that even though they don't understand our language, we try our best to make sure that they understand our language a little bit, but not too much. So this is like a basic things that we try to connect ourselves with our children. So this is not an easy task for us, because the kids learn faster and quicker, and they know more than what we do. So for that, sometimes they manipulate us. They think that we don't know nothing, and then from there they try to jump into some other stuff that even sometimes we can fight when it get into that. For me, I think we have to work very hard in order to engage them, or in order to meet in the middle as the parent. So be proactive, and then let your kid also understand you, and then you communicate with your children. Communication is the most important. Some of them, they don't say whatever they're feeling and whatever they heard from school, but you have to find it out in a different way. That's what I should add on that, and I really very thankful for this program, and I'm so excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, thank you for that response.
Thank you so much for participating, Mr. Lam.
You're welcome.
We want to ask Carla a question, and we'll jump over to Emmanuel. So Carla, in your
yeah, I may ask if I should leave in 2-3 minutes, because I have to go to work. As Jerry said, foreign, they might have like 2 jobs, and then sometimes they don't have time for the children. So I'm one of them. So I finish the other job and I have to go to the other job. So I should ask you if I should leave in 2-3 minutes. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you for everybody.
Thank you so much,
Mr. Lam, and thank you for raising this amazing daughter of yours. I could tell you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So Carla, in your video, you talked a lot about how restorative healing is a lot of storytelling. So can you share a little bit about what makes storytelling so powerful? Why is storytelling healing?
Yeah. I think, thank you so much for the question. I think first of all, everybody needs a space and opportunity to tell their story. I think part of the reason that folks feel isolated or feel alone or don't feel connected to others is because either their story has never been told, or they are really have not been asked by others just to share. Tell me more about yourself. How did you come to whatever the question is, right? How did you come to be here now? And what shaped you to be who you are? And I think, thinking about several of the questions that we've had so far, really about healing parent-child relationships, engaging young people, that storytelling is so important in that process. And many times in spaces, even when we are in communities, in families, often sometimes we just don't know our story or don't talk about our various stories, but also thinking about, sometimes certain people's stories get elevated while other people's stories never get told. So I think the circle process really is a great opportunity to hear from everybody, to pass a talking piece around and really hear responses from voices that we don't normally get to hear. And I think in that way, circles can be a really powerful way of restoring communities, of really creating a different balance of power, and really elevating stories, elevating whose voice is centralized in the circle. And I think as a facilitator of these spaces, it also takes a great amount of empathy, of self-awareness too, to be able to hold a space where folks feel comfortable enough to tell their stories and able to listen to other stories, even when they're hard, or even when they might be maybe contradictory to their own experiences. So that was one of the things that I really, really appreciated in the circle that I helped facilitate. In the nerd community, I think folks were really willing to willing to ask each other hard questions and being willing to listen, even when some of the conversation was difficult.
Yeah, that's great. I just had a class about family systems, and we were learning about narrative therapy. So I think that sort of reminds me a little bit of that, of being able to seek healing through storytelling and to find the value, identifying the values in the experiences that individuals have gone through. So thank you for that, Carla. We appreciate it. Emmanuel Jal, we're going to transition over to you to hear a little bit about your very powerful story. And as I was watching your video, you said a lot of things. I wanted to write everything down, but you had so many wonderful points to make. But you said something that I wanted to highlight, which was your most vulnerable state is proportional to your strengths. I believe. I hope I didn't butcher that. And I believe what you're getting here is saying that, you know, at not to undermine that vulnerability, not to undermine that weak moment. But if you can share a little bit about that statement that you said and how you've applied that statement of where you found yourself at your most vulnerable and how you transitioned into your healing process.
Because I don't know any person that I admire that has achieved anything, that never cried, never went through pain, never felt defeated, never went through all the harsh things. And most of them recognize that. And from that, when they rise from that weak point, you see them going up. So in our weak point, we can learn so many things from that. And when I look at, if you look at people who have healed, it's their lowest point that actually give them the strength, is what make people recognize them, shows them how vulnerable they are. And that's what I meant. So, and what I've learned from it is suffering is essential, and pain is part of us for our growth. And when we don't find a meaning in our suffering, we exist to suffer. So when you're in a point of defeat is when you're stuck in your vulnerable state, just whining on that little point, and then you're not opening your mind to see things differently. And so I don't know if I'm making sense, but I like the question you asked earlier about the one Carla, which activated some thoughts in my head, which is about stories. And I hope I can add something on that. I always look at our lives are shaped by the stories we hear, and our success depends on the stories we are told. So growing up as kids, what do the stories do? The stories create the beliefs that governs our life. If you look at the Bible, what made Bible powerful and Quran, and what made history powerful on leaders, is they feed off the stories of the people in the past. And what do stories do? Stories will create beliefs. And what do beliefs do? Beliefs holds our emotions. And those beliefs come from the experiences. Those stories are experiences. Could mean like our own experience in other areas. And once they create those beliefs would be the one responsible for guiding us, navigating us, creating our built-in motivation circuit. And so, and when you look at it in life, the summation of emotions we generate every day make our decision. And the summation of decisions we make every day create our future. So you can track a person, even from a child. You could look at how is this child thought. If you find a kid that is acting in a certain way, you could look the emotion they have. Behind those emotions come certain beliefs and certain habits. And so I'll stop there, otherwise I would have gone along. Somebody has a question.
Thank you, Emmanuel. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I'm interested in learning more about your creative process. I understand you're also a musician, and how do these worlds kind of fuse? So I know we've been talking about narrative therapy a little bit. Do you find that you're able to heal through your music? And also, can you tell us where we can hear your music and find it at, please?
Thank you. Well, you can hear my music on YouTube. You can just type my name, or you can go on iTunes or all other outlets. I have like 6 albums out. I'm working on the 7th now. And in terms of my creative process, how did it affect my healing? Yeah. One thing is, you could go to a studio and spend half a day and you're not tired. So I found it like creating music is almost like meditation in itself, because you're locked in that space of creating something. And
ahora le puedes preguntar. Perdón, sorry.
Hello?
You're fine. Go ahead. Please proceed. You're fine, Emmanuel.
Yeah. Did you? Am I answering the question?
Yes, you are. That was just a mic issue. You're fine.
Okay. So the creative process in itself, I did not know how impactful it is, because I used to have nightmares at night, and daytimes would be flashbacks. So when I started writing music, one of the biggest challenge I had is when you're in school and the teacher is teaching in the class, my brain was not strong enough to be able to capture the data, because what I realized, stress, trauma, and too much anxiety or worries occupy a lot of mental space that difficult things, or when the teacher is teaching us in class, will not be able to hear. And so when I came to here, either when I'm dancing or making music, it put me in a certain moods. And I realized it created mental space for me now to go and do something difficult. So the creative process, when I was in studio, when it takes a whole day, it means I couldn't believe that I spent like the whole day doing music where I don't have to have anxiety or have to worry or have flashbacks. And I realized, okay, this thing is giving my life a meaning. And then I started doing it more.
Well, we're past our 3 p.m. mark, and I just want to read some of the comments we've received and additional questions, if that's okay. Kayla?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Okay. So I guess Emily Filiano asks, where or how can individuals and organizations access training on how to facilitate healing circles? You want to take that, Carla?
Yeah, sure. There, you can refer to the International Institute for Restorative Practices, has a lot of great resources on circle facilitation. The Circle Way that you can access online also has a lot of trainings and resources really around thoughtful questions that you can incorporate into circles. There's so many resources around restorative circles, restorative justice, and circle facilitation these days. So I would start there. Kate Pranis also has a really kind of simple book around circles and facilitation. You can look her up as well.
Okay, thank you. And Naya Coach, this may be someone who is asking this question. Are you guys planning on doing another circle? If so, I'd love to join. So is there an answer to that?
We are. I believe she's not located in California. So this actually just inspired me to possibly next time I'm over in the Midwest, or even send some of these resources your way so that you are more than capable of facilitating your own restorative healing circle. So maybe educating you on how you can do that. Then I think it would be great for your community and perfect for you guys to engage in something like that.
Okay. Yeah, actually the video that we did with Carla is a little bit of a how-to for the restorative circles, so that they can be used in social work settings or in your own community-based organizations. You can see sort of how she did it and what are some of her strategies and techniques around it.
Yeah, that was a great, yeah. Go ahead, Carla.
I was just going to share, I'd be happy to put my information in the comments too, if you want to reach out for more information and tips about facilitating your own circles.
Mm-hmm. What a generous offer. Thank you. We'll take you up on that. And Paul Brazel says, thank you. Oh, yes, thank you for Naya Coach. I think that was addressed to her father. She's amazing. Paul is also saying, I'm very appreciative of everyone sharing their experiences and practice wisdom. So grateful. And Sylvia Telefaro says, and no one can tell your story like you can. So she's grateful for each and every one of you sharing your stories. Eric Haudegi says, congratulations on this panel and event. It's been so insightful. Paul Brissell says, I also love the thought that circle spaces are not just reactive in nature, that they are a place where healing and relationships can be built and reinforced. My question is this, where are most of these circles taking place, or where do you suggest the circles take place? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. Just quickly, yeah, circles are happening in many places these days, in communities, in schools, in organizations. More and more schools are adopting restorative practices, really turning to having circles, as you said, as just part of their classroom routine, really to build community, to really address any issues that come up daily rather than just being reactive when harm takes place. So there are a number of school districts here in San Diego, but I'm sure all throughout the country as well that are where circles are happening. I facilitate a number of circles for folks that work at various nonprofits and in communities, really, particularly in the last couple of years, as folks have been separated, they're looking for more opportunities to connect and to learn more about each other as work has shifted to be virtual. So yeah, I think community circles can happen really anywhere where folks are looking for healing, looking for connection, looking for opportunities to really hear each other in a different way.
Okay. And there's another question here. It's when the stories about your cultures or families past revolve around traumatic events, how can someone start breaking away from that and establish a different, healthier relationship with their past and culture? That's for either, anyone here.
I'll jump in. I think it's important to know, Eric, that you have the choice. And once there's an awareness, you then have the choice to choose what route you want to take. So I think it's really important to even be aware of those traumatic events and those things, and to, if you need to, separate yourself from it and choose. What I have done is choose parts of the culture that I think are healthy, that I think that resonate with my beliefs and the values that I have created for myself, and let go of what does not bring me that. And so it's important to understand the pattern of those traumatic events, and do what you need to do to heal yourself from that. Trauma is tricky, and trauma can be very difficult, and it could be reoccurring. However, making sure that you have, healthy coping skills, you have people that you can connect with that can bring you that safe space, but doing what you can to make sure that you're putting forth that effort to not create those same patterns. Because as we know, we do what we know and we do what we're taught sometimes. And so what you have seen and what you've experienced could be the same thing that is kind of reoccurring in your life. So as long as you're aware about it, it could be really difficult because sometimes you're in that place where you love your community, you love being there, but sometimes the community could be, or that culture could be the formula for the traumatic experiences. But I think just continue to educate yourself, being mindful of what may be triggering you, or what about the culture that you should let go, and what are some things that you can hang on to if that's possible.
Maybe just to add something, and one thing I came to understand is when we hold our emotion to the pain of the past, it prevents us the value that experience has given us. some of the resources that I have right now, when I detach myself from that pain, detaching my emotion from the pains of what happened for me in the past, I'm able to see the value that those suffering has brought into my life. And most of us is holding into those things and not letting them go, and holding into the pain. So, and I think that only depends on how a person has growth. And when I look at it, is each and every culture has got their own traumas, have their own pains. And what trauma does, it's prevent people from evolving. It blocks the faculties that are for our mind that are responsible for logic, reasons, and doing long-term projects, long-term plans. So it's allow us to act on instinct. And so once we grow, we can run away, but that's not going to help. We can see. I always believe that once somebody know their purpose and know their vision, they'll find a way to which they can constantly fill themselves up, so they can step in any relationship with abundance, so they can be able to give whatever they do without expectation. So I really enjoyed this session, and I thank you, Carla, for your contribution, and also Nyakwaj, Sylvia. Also, I'm learning from you all and how you're all participating. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you, Emmanuel. We have a question for you, and I'm going to translate it. It's in Spanish. I have a question for Emmanuel. I would like to know, how does the mix of cultures in the creative process related to music, how does the mix of cultures influence your creative process in music? Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. The only thing I love about music is the language that every cell, every part of our body understands. It's the universal language. Chinese music, my body understands. Babies understand all kind of music. And so in terms of culture, I would say my music, I did not know much about my culture in terms of, but what I could remember growing up as a kid, I try to carry on with me so that I can bring it into the present. So I'm in the music that I'm doing now, I'm known for as an artist that bring the village into hip hop, bringing the village into the mainstream. And sometimes I do American kind of like a hip hop where I can go straight forward, because those are the ones who influenced me when I'm in Kenya. I did not know that those old school rappers like Tupac and all of those musicians, Bob Marley, I didn't know they came out of Africa. I used to think Bob Marley was an Ethiopian, and I used to think Tupac was Kenyan. So I couldn't tell the difference. My brain has not widened far. And so I thought, okay, these are just not normal Black people like me, but they're rapping and singing in English. And I wanted to do that. But I realized with time, they've perfected that way of doing things. So what has made me unique now is I'm able to incorporate my mother tongue with English and try to withdraw something in my culture. Since I'm not I'm not really great in my mother tongue, and I've learned like 6 or 7 languages along the way. So when I don't have a word with this in this language, and I go and get that word in the other language, it makes my music become different. So music copy from other cultures. So like you could look at rock come from the Black neighborhood, and if you go to Africa right now, African music is the same music in the West, but Western music got their own unique way of doing things. So I think whichever way any artist in the world, a Mexican artist listen to a Chinese artist and they like that Chinese artist will influence them somehow when they're doing their music. And the great musicians actually are thugs. They steal ideas. The good ones just copy. And mediocre ones try to be original.
Thank you for your honesty there. Well, I want to just transition real quick here, and I need to not only acknowledge the panel, but I'm going to leave that for Naya Coach to close today's event. But prior to doing that, when you were talking about passion, Emmanuel, I want to introduce Alex Hierro, who is an SDSU social work alum, and he is in charge of, having us in this space. There he is, Alejandro Hierro, who talks about passion. He's a social worker, but also an entrepreneur. So he's creative, he's imaginative, he's an artist, and we count on him every year. Every year, he doesn't fail us. So, Alex, I want to acknowledge you and thank you.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for kind of everything that you've been doing. Honestly, I'm just here kind of moving little strings and bits and pieces and just listening and learning. I was fortunate enough to get to learn and see everyone before the whole thing, because I mean, working behind the scenes, and just be more inspired to continue doing the work that we're doing, right? And I suppose the one thing that I would kind of want to close with on my end, and we don't need to answer it right now or anything, is like what do we believe is the difference that makes a difference in all that pain, all that kind of struggle, all those challenges, into being able to one way or another transform it into a positive, instead of having it kind of dig us deeper into repeating the patterns of our past, right? So, and I don't know if there's an answer, but just things that came into my mind as I was listening to everyone. And again, thank you, and looking forward to collaborating again soon.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Great question. I think that's why we're all here. And now I want to pass it to Naya Coach. Naya Coach, please. You have the, the opportunity to close us and send us off.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex, also for that question. And I think it's ongoing, and everyone's journey is different on what we can do to be better at healing ourselves and to break those patterns that come from traumatic experiences sometimes. But on behalf of San Diego State University School of Social Work, on behalf of Student Success Fee, we want to thank all of you for our panelists. Thank you for being here today. And I've learned so much through this process, and how I can help heal my community. As Emmanuel, you said earlier, heal people, heal people. So I went through my healing process, and I realized, oh my gosh, there's more people that need to learn what I've gone through and how we can do that. And together we can change the world in that way, having these dialogues, having these conversations, and helping one another gain insight on how we can let go of, these traumatic experiences, not let go of them, but through storytelling, learn to take hold of that. And I think something powerful that Emmanuel had said also was that he found his purpose. He understood that he was here for a purpose. And I think each and every one of us, none of us are here by happenstance or, coincidence. So I'm really, really, really grateful for this opportunity to share with my specific community, and also those who also could resonate with refugee communities and coming from other cultures. So I hope that you all take what you needed from this conversation. And for those who came on late or who missed out on what information we've been talking about, there is all of the resources, all the things that we've discussed today are located on our website, the Combating Mental Health Disparities.com. So you will find the films there. Make sure you check them out. They're so, so powerful, and gain from it. Share with your friends and families. They will be there for you guys to go back and review when you have time. So we are thankful for you joining us today, and we just hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.